Welcome to Season 4 of the Questions With podcast, hosted by Quest Ventures, the top venture capital fund in Asia. I am your host, April Vano, and join me as we explore the dynamic startup ecosystem and business landscape in the Philippines. As we listen to thought leaders and industry experts, innovators, and entrepreneurs, we'll uncover the stories, insights, and trends across different industries shaping the future of this vibrant Southeast Asian nation.
Join me today as I sit down with Cara Wilson, co-founder and executive director of For the Women FTW Foundation. FTW is a Philippine nonprofit that upskills deserving Filipinas through free training scholarships in tech. A seasoned media and advertising professional with various roles in countries across the globe, Cara brings her experience and commitment into their work at FTW in making systemic change in the Philippines, especially for women. She lives by the FTW slogan, for the women, for the win, for the world. In this episode, we'll delve into her journey, challenges and triumphs, uncovering invaluable insights and inspiration along the way. Through her experiences, we'll gain unique perspectives and know what it takes to drive innovation in order to foster a thriving community of women in technology. Hello, Cara. Welcome to Questions With podcast. Please say hello to our listeners.
Hi, April. Thank you for inviting me today. And hello to all the listeners out there all over Asia or all over the world.
Of course, I'm glad to have you today. And, I'm really excited for this conversation we're going to have. And, of course, learn more about your story and your work. So let's, get ahead and get started. Perhaps maybe you can start off sharing a little bit about your journey. And of course, what led you to start FTW Foundation?
Okay, so this is something that I tell to new partners all the time when I introduce what happened. So my story began maybe in the mid-90s when I decided to move to Italy to take a master's in business administration. And I wound up living and working in Italy for 25 years. But when I was there, I met so many, what I will call them super Pinays, as I'm not sure if all your listeners are Filipinos, but Pinay is a short slang for
Filipina, yes.
Yeah. So I would call them super Pinays because in the meantime, I had become a mother and I saw these women who spend years away from their own children, their own parents, their own families, yet they are able to perform their duties, mostly domestic work at the time. These are the women that I met at that time in Italy. But they did it with such professionalism, such strength, such graciousness and kindness. And I thought to myself, these are quite exceptional women, and what a big social cost our country is having with to lose this kind of talent, plus all the families that wound up broken because of this diaspora of broken families. And then I saw it go through generation after generation where the women would sacrifice so much to send money back home to make sure that their families could finish their schooling or have a better future. Then the next generation would graduate. The kinds of jobs they would get were not giving them the future that they wanted. So they would go again, and this became like a vicious circle. And I thought to myself, this is not okay. So when my kids in the meantime, I had my own family as well. But when my kids grew up and started to forge their own path, I thought I would like to come back to the Philippines and be part of a solution. In the meantime, I also have an elderly mother that I wanted to be closer to and all of that. So I did come back and I decided to start a coding school, but it was quite a daunting task. And in the meantime, I met these wonderful co-founders of mine who we came up with this solution of trying to find very specific types of women, very defined, deserving women target, and a very specific kind of profile that we give boot camp scholarships for. So it's a very sort of well thought out formula. So it's the right women for the right profile. And frankly, we've been doing it since 2018. I mean, upskilling has been talked about as important for our country for a long time, and we're proud to say that although we are small, we've been doing it for over 5 years with great results because we measure our results all the time. And so that, in a nutshell, is how it all began.
That's fantastic. And yeah, it's inspiring as well to hear your story where you really saw also the opportunity, not even while you're in the Philippines, but also in a global context. And, seeing the work of FTW, I think it's already creating an impact. And perhaps like we can dig a little deeper about what you just said about, the state of women in the Philippines and like you mentioned also around the world, the challenges in the workforce, but perhaps you can share a bit more specifically, right, with, the target women, as you said, the specific type of women that you wanted to be part of your programs. Like, what is it like? So we get an idea and a context.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, when I met my co-founders and we decided to set up FTW Foundation, I really wanted to do this, as I mentioned earlier, as part of the journey that I had already sort of mapped out for myself. But my co-founders were able to add another layer of understanding of this issue because they had a paid school for boot camps, and specifically in data, and they had told me that their best graduates, the graduates of their data boot camps that had the most success were women career switchers who had to borrow money to pay for these programs because, as you might know, data training programs are quite expensive, right? So when my co-founder said, we'd love to do this with you because we found that our graduates, the ones with most success, are women who had to borrow money to pay for our paid training program. So how wonderful would it be to be able to find these women that have this financial need but have this great potential to excel in after a short training, and to be able to help them launch themselves and start creating a community and an advocacy which has a pay it forward aspect to it. So, I mean, how wonderful for you if somebody at some point in your career said, a bunch of strangers said, we picked you because you applied. You are great. We see your potential. You're special. All we ask for you in return is to make sure that you help us do this for the next batch of scholars. And that's proved to be quite a strong message that seems to be working.
That's so true. And, I would say it's also building a community. Like you mentioned, it's going to be really a giving back or pay it forward model where these women, as soon as, if not, later on in their careers, maybe they too can also, extend support and help for more women like them. So that's really an interesting model, like you mentioned. And, bringing that forward, you're doing this for education, right? You're doing this for upskilling and empowering these women that, like you mentioned, might struggle financially or have other challenges in accessing these types of programs. So maybe on that note, right, like what do you think, right? What's your view in investing in women, especially through education and, technology and education and upskilling? We always talk about how, the technologies right now, it's actually, changing and shaping and, disrupting our economies and our societies, but it can also become, a driving force, right? For inclusivity and more opportunity. So why, I guess it's not really convincing others, but perhaps sharing your own story and your testimony, right? How important it is to invest in women, especially in tech education.
Okay, I think that in your previous question, you asked me what are the state of women in the Philippines now, and I think that the state of women in the Philippines is really relatively not bad compared to other countries because we always top the charts as having less of a workforce gender. Maybe workforce participation is still not great. Gender gap is not perfect, but better perhaps than other countries, in particular in our region. However, this problem of a gender gap is global. It's not even in the USA,
Correct.
which should be advanced in terms of the efforts they have toward this. Not recent developments, but in the past, right? I think there have been a few setbacks, but in the past, even in the US, these gender gaps have definitely not been erased. There is that famous broken rung theory, which shows that women might begin to be making some inroads in terms of workforce participation, gender gaps, workforce bias in hiring and all that. And then when it comes to the critical moments where family and balancing family, there is definitely a drop off. And then always at the top in the C-suite, there is definitely a drop off again. And I think that this is true in all corporate settings, but particularly strong in tech. I once spoke to someone who was one of the key people at the UC Berkeley entrepreneurship course. And this is a man who lived with his family in Silicon Valley and was definitely all for workforce development. He had daughters and they were studying there, and he said, it's just incredible that I would have these wonderful conversations with my daughter at the breakfast table having to do with science and how things work. And then all of a sudden, when she turned 11, she decided, nope, I'm going to be a journalist like grandma or something like that. So it could be that she was equally attracted to journalism, but I wondered if even in Silicon Valley and these parts of the world, there's something that females perceive, whether it's in a society or as being unsexy about tech. I don't know, and an old boys club. So I think it's the dog that bites its tail. Then you join a tech firm, they're mostly men, and then you feel sometimes a little bit left out, or you feel a little bit, this is not a place that understands me or helps me understand how I can thrive. And we have to continue to I don't want to use the word fight because I don't think it's necessarily a combative situation, but we need to be aware and continue to support each other more for these kinds of things, because I don't think it's only a Philippine issue. I think, in fact, in the Philippines, we have a little bit of a head start, because I tell you, when I go to employers and I tell them, we've got 30 graduating junior data analysts, data scientists ready to start their new job. And they begin to understand what that's all about. Usually employers will say, you have women. I'm really excited. I even prefer to hire women, at least in the Philippines, that I've had that kind of response, which I think is a testament to the fact that Filipino women have had a reputation for being multitaskers, to be willing to work really hard, to be detail-oriented. And of course, men are the same way. But in general, sometimes employers have these ideas, which works to our advantage, let's say, for women, I think. And FTW, I think, prides itself in being and having found this secret sauce that discovers this untapped potential that usually HR has a harder time finding because it's much more conventional. So we're small, we're agile, our whole selection process is bespoke and something that we continue to modify based on data, the data that we collect about our alumni and how that they're doing in the job market as we go along. So we try to make sure that we explain to our employers that we're trying to find these untapped talent, but we also have great employer partners that say to us, it's okay. First of all, they know that it's a candidate's market, so they're willing to take this chance with junior talent, because we said, look, you can have your open job opening there for a year and not find the right senior person, or you find the senior person that then will leave you within 6 months because they are so in demand. Doesn't it make sense for you to find someone with great potential that has the basic skills? She knows Python, she knows SQL, she knows she will know how to dashboard with Tableau or Power BI or Looker Studio. But more than our employer partners said, we don't really mind that she's a junior in hard skills, because we teach hard skills on the job. And in fact, every job has their own idiosyncratic methods of which software they use or which hard skills they want their teams to be familiar with. But what our employer partners say that they cannot teach, which what they like about FTW Foundation graduates, is the attitude. You can't teach a good attitude to be a lifelong learner, and that's what we want to find in our FTW scholars, is this ability to be a lifelong learner, because we always tell them, whatever job you are training for, even in our boot camp today, we don't know if that's going to be the job. Like now with AI, things are changing again. Things are always changing. So what's most important is that when your boss tells you, do you know how to do this? And, and you have to be able to tell your boss, sir, we only did half a day of natural language processing at my FTW scholarship course. But please give me the problem and give me until Thursday morning at 9 in the morning. I'll have some kind of solution proposed to you by that time in your inbox, and I will try to study my answer. So which employer would that be happy with that kind of employee who wants to learn and will go through walls to help you solve your problems? Even if they don't know it today, they would be willing to grow with you and learn it. So I think that's the best untapped potential talent which FTW brings to the table. And we just need employer partners that are willing to say to us, okay, we'll take that talent, we'll mentor them for 6 months, and then they probably will be ready to team lead. And we do have data that shows that this is the case. Our alumni are definitely on an upward career trajectory in their jobs.
Yeah, it really does seem that you've found your secret sauce, and I love it when you said that for not really bias. You didn't say bias, but it seems that you've allowed your graduates to have kind of like a stamp, right? A stamp of credibility, and of course a certain standard that your partners see in them, or would hope to see in them as they would hire these graduates. So I mean, maybe on that, right, in terms of these opportunities, perhaps you can also share, especially in the context of the Philippines. Obviously, talent is one of our greatest, I would say, capital or assets as a country, and the tech sector can be an area for growth, or it has been an area for growth there. You mentioned a few of course, disruption in AI, but maybe just a little bit of specific examples that what is the tech sector looking for now in terms of talent? Maybe some of our listeners are also curious about what are these jobs that are actually looking for certain skills. Maybe some who are not even in the technology space would be more aware.
Yeah, so before for the last 10 batches that we graduated, we concentrated on a career switching woman who wanted to learn the basics of data science. So she began with all the hard skills training for exploratory data analysis, dashboarding, definitely data visualization, data storytelling. Then she progressed into SQL and Python with data analysis, paying very particular attention on always understanding the business problem. And she was able to then touch into learning basic hard skills of modeling, predictive analysis. And then she would delve into a capstone project, which was a real world problem that the alumni would have to solve and present insights to whoever the capstone project sponsor, which were real companies with real data at the end, which would allow these companies to evaluate the talent that had been working with them on their capstone projects, sort of like an internship. We also spent a lot of time on soft skills. So people don't like the word soft skills, but I love it. I think softness is our superpower, right? So I think that we spent a lot of time mentoring, making sure that these career switching women had chances to build their job readiness skills. We had data ethics, we had mock interviews, we had rocking your LinkedIn profile. We have a big sister program where we assign an alumni to a new graduate to help them in the scary transition period from right after they finish their FTW course. So it means that we give them 100% support in hard skills and soft skills in this super boot camp setting that we have done, and then we launch them into these careers. So you're asking what sort of jobs they train for. So before we used to see a lot of junior data analysts, junior data scientists, like dashboarding, some data analysis, research analysis, different kinds of analytical junior roles. And then with this next batch, this batch 11, which is starting, actually applications will open in a couple of weeks. Basically, we've decided to respond to what we perceive are some job market modifications that we're seeing by trying to go more in depth in certain profiles. So we will be training now for junior data engineering roles with a heavy emphasis on SQL and cloud, and dashboarding for business intelligence, because we have gotten feedback that these are the in-demand roles right now. So if we have employers out there that need a lot of data engineers, junior data engineers, or data analysts, data visualizers, dashboarding people in Tableau, Power BI, Looker, please get in touch with info@ftwfoundation.org or myself, Cara Wilson, and we'll be very happy to explore and collaborate. Those are the roles that we feel have the best potential now, as well as many data science roles are moving into AI, and a lot of the AI tools that you learn, you will actually learn on the job, and they are. I think you and I, April, all of us just naturally gravitate to already incorporating AI as a working partner for ourselves. And I think this is even more true for any data job.
Yes, I was going to say, in terms of like new skills, especially in the digital economy, I think almost every day there's something new. They always, there's always some kind of progress or new skill or new technology, and, the workforce will have to catch up. But I noted what you said earlier, that, life skills or soft skills that you also impart to, the graduates or to the women is, for them to be lifelong learners and for them to be agile and be able to become problem solvers. So I think that is, these important skills and mindset that, sets them apart, because no matter if the job description becomes more fluid or it changes through these, I would say, for tech companies, it could definitely be different roles in the same company, and you'd have to be able to adapt, right? So that's a very, I guess, market-driven or very much a hyper-focused approach, which I think you do say it yourself, very effective. And I do wish that something, that can be done for more women, or even for, everybody, or even young people. I know that you have a super, I would say, super laser focused, I would say, selection process. But, it would be great to see more organizations, do something like this in terms of tech education and upskilling, and perhaps, we talked about this before, and this is the mission of FTW, and perhaps we can talk about, what's your call to action, right? For others who want to invest in women and invest in women in technology, what are the gaps? What are still the challenges? And of course, maybe how, you're collaborating with others. Like, how can we really push this movement forward so we uplift even more women?
Well, I think that I'm going to concentrate on potential employers, since I think hopefully there are a lot out there in the audience. I think that I'd like to ask employers to be more willing to invest in talent in tech. I think that because it's a candidates market, and I'm sure a lot of them are not having an easy time finding the right talent, even though they have to go all over the world, different parts of the world for this. But perhaps you should consider investing in training programs for junior talent that can grow with your company, instead of always looking for the senior people, because frankly, these jobs were not around a few years ago. So it's really hard.
Exactly. You won't find them to the T.
Right. So isn't it better to say, look, I need to spend some time mentoring this person. But if I give them a KPI of, let's say, 6 months, where I want them to be able to be like from this level to that level, and I see that this person has that great potential, then sometimes, especially startups, you never have time to mentor because usually staffing is so lean. But this is a challenge I'm putting out there to employers. Why don't you, invest with us? This is the future. If you want women, if you want diversity, if you want that diversity of perspective in your data teams or in your tech teams, then perhaps you should consider making these kinds of training investments, I would say. And on our part, we will try and find you this untapped potential talent that is usually like these diamonds in the rough that are not always obviously hired in recruiting processes. And hopefully we can find mutually beneficial longer term solutions that help the Philippines systemically, like giving opportunities to women, and at the same time allows your company to have great talent, which will grow with you. And I think that if you're up to that challenge, please get in touch because we would love to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, I hope our listeners could be some of those either tech companies, startups, potential employers and partners. And that's definitely something that we hope is also kind of a perspective that we're sharing about the Philippines here. And perhaps some of our listeners are not very familiar with the Philippines, but we're very proud of our tech talent or talent overall. There's really a lot of people investing in this space, and hopefully we can grow, I guess, the piece of that sort of talent pool pie into technology professionals, and like you said, diversifying that, and really, especially now that everything is also relying on data, and companies are really now working with technology as part of their infrastructure. We hope that there's both our men and women right behind the scenes across these industries. So that's really something that I hear the mission quite loud and clear, and hopefully we find others that can connect and resonate with you. And maybe I want to kind of throw in like a kind of like a big question to you, Cara, if you don't mind, like what's next for FTW? I mean, like you've had quite successful results now, but I'm sure you're not nowhere near stopping. Where do you actually see in the next 5, even 10 years? What do you want to see for FTW, but also like the impact that you would want to make?
I think that we can never, just like we're asking the same from our alumni to be lifelong learners, FTW can't sit down and say, okay, we figured this out. This is what we're going to do over and over, because the market keeps on changing. What it needs keeps on changing. So we have to constantly be taking data and being agile and adjusting to how we think we can best help these women. I think that we have to, though, continue to use the formula that seems to be working for us at this point, which is to find a very particular niche of women, this gritty, driven, lifelong learner, and to find the right profiles that have this upward career trajectory for our graduates, so that we continue to have this snowball effect paying it forward. I think that I'd like to maybe give an example of the kind of woman that
Sure, please.
Would have I'm not going to mention names for privacy reasons, but we have had some women who were single moms. Let's say they had grown children, and because they perhaps decided to concentrate on their family life, never finished their college degrees, let's say, had a few credits left, and after FTW gave them this chance, they decided to finish their college career. They decided to switch. And I remember one in particular started working afterwards was able to triple her salary working for one of the leading telcos. And she said to me, I remember when you said to us, even though you're in your dream job, if you see another job opening that seems even more to be your dream job, why not try it? So I always tell them, be bold, go ahead, explore, find out how marketable you are. So she said, I always wanted to work in a NGO because FTW inspired me so much with the altruistic missions that working in data gave you for this. But then I always thought, I need to support 3 children. They're all teenagers, high school, and then some are going to start college. So how will I do that on an NGO salary? But she found this international NGO, and at first she said, I was really afraid because the test was really hard, but I remembered you told us to just go for it. So I passed, and then I had to go through an interview process with all these European people, and it was very scary, but I passed, and now I was hired as a data scientist and sent to Switzerland for this very prominent international NGO, and now she just geospatial data analysis of refugee goods and all these really cool things, and she's so fulfilled because she is now doing like a data job that has meaning. So, and she's, not to mention the fact that her salary, of course, continues to go up, and her work continues to be interesting and fulfill her. So these are the kinds of women I think that we are looking for, women who, perhaps have, even college degrees. But, as we all know in the Philippines, a college degree doesn't mean you're set up for life. You still need sometimes, a little leg up. And those are the kind of women that we love to help. And love to find and love to help.
Wow, that's very impressive. And thank you for sharing that particular story. And perhaps, shout out to that graduate or alumna from FTW. And hopefully, these stories are something that can be shared more and hopefully can inspire others, to really pursue careers in tech. And that's amazing. We don't have much time left, right? But I do also want to, get more words from you in terms of, your advice, or you mentioned a little bit about how you try to choose the kind of mindset or the kind of driven women that want these opportunities. But perhaps for, anyone listening, out there, for other young women, maybe those thinking about switching careers, or maybe fresh graduates or even students still, as a woman leader in tech, what would you share, and impart for those women who want to jump into this field in technology?
So I think that, as I mentioned earlier, the first bit of advice which was given to me, and I would like to repeat, is be bold. So be bold. Nothing will be lost for you if you try and don't make it right away. What is lost? Just the effort, right? So just try, be bold and try, right? And I think the next bit of advice I think that's really important for women is to find your tribe. So find your community, find the people that support you and support them as well. Right. So I think if you can be bold and find your tribe, I think with a lot of our alumni, the most thrilling moment for me is when this person who maybe didn't have the confidence or just applied to this training scholarship program, just in their one moment of boldness. But when they, it's very intensive. So there are moments during the course where they probably think like, oh, I'm not sure if I can push through with this. It's really hard. But then toward the end, especially when they do capstone projects and start finding insights that, you're just somebody who used to be a teacher and now you're giving insights to the leading telco in the Philippines, and the light bulb goes off in their head and they think like, wow, I think I can really do this. And once they go through that first hurdle, that light bulb that says, as they say in Filipino, kaya ko pala, I can do this, then sky's the limit for them, right? So I think if you be bold, get to that point where you cross that bridge of boldness and then find your tribe, I think then there's no stopping a lot of women that make that effort, I think. And FTW is definitely here to help you find that moment and accompany you throughout that journey.
Truly inspiring words and empowering words from you, Cara. Thank you for that. Noting it, be bold, and find your tribe of fellow, I would say, bold and driven women, and making a difference there. And I'm really sure that the kind of culture that you're also you're bringing, and the graduates that have received, right, the support and the learning from FTW would be your champions, right, with these values. So that's exciting to see. And, I want also to give you some time to share a bit more, or at least, a call to action for those who might be interested to collaborate with you. I know that you shared, right, it's you're a nonprofit. You are partnering with different organizations. Perhaps you can even share a bit of that. Like, I know we talked about it before, right? Like, investing or supporting a nonprofit in this field is kind of an interesting thing, especially in the Philippines. But I think it's a very, I would say, crucial message that we'd like to share, that we need more, more women like you, more FTWs, but hopefully more champions that could also support your team.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, this is a very well thought out, targeted kind of philanthropy, because a lot of donors think of the Philippines as having so many sort of last mile efforts, which is true. Unfortunately, we are affected by climate change, we are affected by natural disasters, we're affected by so much poverty and all the health difficulties, and which translate then eventually into educational difficulties. So there are so many worthwhile causes that donors can look into, but it's very difficult to measure the long-term success of things like that. So what FTW decided to do is to find a target that we can measure the success of right away. So these are women that with a little leg up can really change their lives and create impact, not only for themselves, but for their families and the communities around them. So the ripple effect is quite large with the kind of women that we try and help. So the call to action is for employers or donors that believe that they would like to really see where their donations are going. We can definitely give those kinds of impact measurements. I'm also calling on the women who are interested in career switching. In particular, we have a profile batch 11 coming up now in a couple of weeks for a data engineering and data analytics with a heavy emphasis on dashboarding coming out. So those of you who are interested to understand more and are not sure but think they might be interested, please tune in to our social media, FTW Foundation, and consider applying. We will have an application opening up. It won't be easy, but I mean, what good things in life are easy, So I think that it's a call then to donors and potential employers. Please get in touch. We would love for you to get involved. There are many ways of getting involved. You can sponsor us with different sponsorships grants, which we can tell you about. You can consider hiring from us. You can consider even becoming a teacher, an instructor. We're always looking for great people that believe in giving back in that way. And then if you are a young woman that feels that the time is right for them to join, to get into a tech role, please follow us, and there are many opportunities for you as well. So you are all welcome.
Wow, there's a lot of ways or opportunities right there to collaborate or be part of the FTW journey. Thank you for sharing that, Cara. And, we resonate with, what you're doing. And of course, it's, this whole tech ecosystem building that we are pushing across the region. And, in particular, what you're doing with women is definitely something that would contribute to the larger landscape, right? In the Philippines, but also for the rest of the region, if not the world. Like you said, right? These roles can actually bring Filipinas and women to jobs or opportunities that reach all corners of the globe. So that's the power of technology there. So that's really amazing, Cara. Thank you so much. I think there's so much more we can even talk about, but I think, the insights shared in this episodes are really great. And I hope these nuggets will, ripple across to our listeners. Thank you so much, Cara, for joining us and being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I wish Quest Ventures and your podcast all the success. I hope that I was able to bring some inspiration to your listeners to get involved. I think that's the most important thing, to do something.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you again, Cara. And of course, thank you to all of you listening and tuning into this episodes of Questions with Cara Wilson. So for more episodes like this, be sure to hit the follow button on whichever platform you're listening from. I am your host, April Vano. Till next time.